It's time to feel the rage. Welcome to Film Rage at the Calgary International Film Festival. My name is Bryce, and I'm part of the Film Rage crew, which also includes Jim. Hello, Jim.
Hey, hey.
And Murray. Hey there, Murray.
Yo.
And joining us today is Executive Director of CIFF, Mr. Steve Schroeder. Hey there, Steve.
Hi, everybody. It's really fun to be on Film Rage today. How you doing?
Right on. So with the introductions out of the way, let's rage on.
Okay, so we're going to just start off quickly, which we've been talking about CIFF for a while now, but we're going to just have a quick heads up because coming October, we are going to be heading into a great festival that we are also attending called All the Rage. Check it out at All the Rage. All the horror. Why did I say all the rage? I got rage on the mind. And Steve got me all excited about talking about rage. It's all the horror. Thanks, Bryce. All the horror 18 at Instagram and Twitter. And also, you can check out scaresthatcare.org. So that's enough about them. Let's just go right into CIFFcalgary.ca is where you can find everything CIFF. Steve, why don't you tell us a little bit about CIFF and why it's important that everybody listens this year?
Well, hey, everybody. And I think that's a great question to start with. I think that, I don't have to tell anybody listening what an upside-down year it's been and how it has disrupted all kinds of ways that we live our lives, including those of us who are, voracious film watchers. And as a matter of fact, back at the beginning of the pandemic, what was one of the first, real wake-up calls for everybody that this was going to be a difficult and crazy year? South by Southwest was canceled, and I know for people like me, and I'm sure people like you guys, that was extremely notable as an event, and that was when I think we at CIFF we'd already been looking ahead and seeing that maybe COVID was going to be a bigger thing on our radar than others were seeing. But, from that point onwards, we just began thinking about, okay, cancellation is not going to be in our vocabulary this year. We have to, and we don't know what the next few months are going to look like. Let's plan for the worst and hope for the best and see if there's a way to put on a festival, in as many ways as we can. And this year we've been able to do that very fortunately, and thanks to a lot of amazing people and partners and fans and audience. So I think that's why it's important. I think that, it's not only does, CIFF as a festival offer a lot of movies that most people probably wouldn't come across elsewise, but also it's kind of the people I'm talking to and the audiences I'm seeing are really it's quite a healthy and helpful and just uplifting thing to be able to do, to celebrate movies with thousands of other people, whether you're doing it online or if you're willing to come to the cinema.
Yeah, it's true. It's interesting as you go along social media and see how people are sort of talking about it online. It's almost created a little bit of a different vibe, right?
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's no question. It is so different. There's no when I'm down on site at the venue, and I was at Eau Claire this past weekend, and then at the Globe last night, and just watching the audience. There's no question. It feels completely different. And one of the funny silver linings is that a number of people have come up to me and they're like, "I kind of like this vibe better." So, I don't know what your guys' experience has been so far. I'd like to hear how you've experienced it.
Yeah, well, we've been trying to immerse ourselves as much as possible. We kind of made a focus to any of the films that were just going to be in theaters. We wanted to go to the theaters for those. And then outside of that, we focused on, obviously, just as much. We all have different tastes.
We're trying to cram in as much as possible.
Yeah.
So we're going to the in-theater stuff that's exclusively in theaters, but if it's online, we're cramming it in. So we're doing 5-6 movies a day, baby.
Yeah, we're cramming it as much as possible.
Well, let me ask you. I've seen you guys down there a bunch, and let me ask you another question. Not to sort of turn the tables on you.
Go right ahead.
We like to talk to
you.
Because one of the things that we were talking about internally back in the spring when we were discussing what an in-cinema portion of the festival could look like, and bear in mind at that time we didn't know if it would even be allowed, but one concern, and I heard this concern from other senior programmers and senior festival staff at other festivals across Canada, which is that they were concerned that it might feel like kind of lonely inside a theater that seats 360 people but only has like 70 people or 60 people watching a movie. And it was like, oh, is it going to be like is it going to be funerary? You know what I mean? Is it going to feel depressing? But that hasn't been my feeling at all.
No, you know what?
The cinemas and the audiences. So like, yeah, how's it been have you guys found it to be a pleasant experience?
It's definitely a little bit of a different vibe. There's no question. But once the lights go down and you're still in that audience, just because you're not shoulder to shoulder with something doesn't mean that you're not experiencing this. It's still a communal sort of experience for everybody there.
Yeah.
So
good.
It hasn't taken that away.
Yeah, and the thing for us,
I've been quite pleased with it.
Yeah, and for us, which is, when the first weekend the theaters were open, we were at the Plaza and the Globe those weekends,
and we're the only ones.
And we're so we've been there at the beginning, making sure that we try and get the voice out that in theater is safe and that you guys should go there. So, for us, this was great. It was like, holy cow, we see 75 people in the movie theater. That's the most we've seen since things have come back, right? So for us, we have a little bit maybe of a warped opinion, but you're right. We've been talking to people in the theaters, and they're excited to be able to, and most of them feel safe. I think they do. Yeah.
I mean, there are things to continue smoothing out as we do a new approach. But I'm glad to hear that's your experience, because that's been how I perceived it. But you have to watch out for your own biases, right? I of course want to think that I want to think it's going well.
You might catch yourself looking through rose-colored glasses. Eh? This
exactly,
is great.
Right? Exactly.
But no,
whereas a couple pessimists like you, we have to, that like to hear you. No,
Well, I can tell you, as a longtime volunteer, I actually do miss the crowds quite a bit, because I've been doing this for like 12, 13 years, and the seeing the films is still the same, but the buzz that I'm used to, it's just, I really was missing that this year. Like, I talked to a few of the volunteers when I was down there, and I mean, it's still the festival, and I still love coming to it. It's just, I definitely missed because I mean, there was lineups for miles, and especially at Eau Claire, like 6 theaters, they were all lined up.
Waiting in line.
And there was like live music and stuff, and it's just, I know you had to do a little different this year, so
there's nothing like a pack, like when you walk onto a festival site and there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people everywhere. There's nothing like that. Yeah. I mean, that is a great feeling, and watching a movie with like 450 other people,
sure.
that's just not going to be happening anywhere in the world for a while.
Yeah.
It seems. Yeah. But I totally take that too. I kind of think I guess maybe I am the optimist, because I like to, I see, potential ways of doing things that are cool, hopefully in radically different scenarios. Yeah. So I think there's a way to make an amazing experience that has a smaller house. Sometimes, I long for big houses too. Yeah.
No, it's working this year pretty good. So, but hopefully for next year, awesome. we'll be actually, be a full festival mode again. I just had a question. It's like, earlier in the year, like you said, you made a decision that you were going to go ahead with the festival online and in theater. A lot of other festivals, namely CIFF, decided to do online only, other than a couple drive-ins. But how did you decide that you were going to go ahead with the festival, and what were some of the challenges that your staff had to face to pull it off?
Well, there's a lot to talk about on the second half of that question around the challenges, for sure. But how we made the decision, well, it is truly amazing, and I take my hat off to festivals like CIFF that were scheduled to occur and traditionally occur in the spring, because they were like the first on the beach, if you know what I mean, in terms of figuring out how to do this. They and others in the spring didn't really have a choice to consider a hybrid model within cinema, because it just wasn't going to be, it just wasn't going to be allowed, and the cinemas weren't open. So, we spoke to and heard from dozens and dozens of festivals that had started occurring sort of mid to late fall, and hearing their experiences. We were encouraged. I just, with cards on the table here, I had never, ever prior to COVID been interested in CIFF doing stuff online. People naturally, of course, have suggested that many times over the years. And it's like, look, the one thing festivals, personally, I'm in this business because I love live events. I love things that bring human beings together in real time and space to celebrate what they love. And I just thought, that's, first of all, that's the most exciting thing, at least to me, and I think most of the CIFF team. And the second thing being, why would we enter a space to compete with Netflix? We're not set up to compete with Netflix and Amazon and all the other platforms. That's not our activity. That's the one we can give the one thing the internet cannot provide, right?
Yeah.
So didn't want to do that, but when we began to see that it looked like there was probably no other way to do it than to incorporate online, and also and then began to hear from and talk to other festivals who were actually having, in some cases, surprisingly good results with the range and geographic range of audience they could reach. And the industry, the rights holders, the filmmakers, and the distributors and sales agents, such who provide films to film festivals and who we work with to get films, they shifted over those months towards being more open to the fall to film festivals showing their work online. It was never really an option before.
Yeah.
And so. But again, those earlier festivals like CIFF and countless others in the spring, they were operating in a more uncertain environment.
They were so early on.
South by Southwest in particular, right? They did put stuff online, but they were the first, the start of the festival circuit, right?
Yeah, and so we learned a lot from their experiences, and we listened very carefully. And I think that I'm coming back to your question, which is how did we decide to do this? So the online part. We began to think about that pretty much from the get-go. The in-cinema part, it took us a few months to really think about that, but one of the key things I wanted to design from the very beginning was a resilient system where you can have, when you're threatened with uncertainty, you want to have multiple options for how you can do what you do. You want to be able to operate in different spaces, right, and open up new possibilities. And to me, the idea of only going online took an option off the table.
Yeah.
And we discussed very early that if we would be allowed, if cinemas were going to open back up again, and if we were going to be allowed to actually have some kind of in-cinema screenings, then we should try to do it.
Yeah.
We should try to do it in a way that exceeds the public health standards set by the government, so that we're being extra diligent, citizens in helping to limit the spread of the virus. But to try to do it nonetheless, because we knew sooner or later, people we'd want to start opening things back up a little bit, and we didn't see a reason that film shouldn't be part of that, but also that and general confidence as we learned more about the virus that it would indeed be safe if we took the right measures, and finally, also just from the audience perspective, we knew pretty early from conversations with the filmmakers and distributors that they would there would just simply be some content that they would only allow us to show in cinema. Period. It wouldn't be allowed online. And so we thought, okay, well, if we are allowed to go back into cinemas, then we owe it to the audience and those who are able and willing to come out to the cinema to have that content available if we can, have those movies available if we can, provided that it's safe and we worked very hard to make sure, and we have worked very hard to make sure it's a safe environment.
Yeah, it feels safe.
Awesome.
All of us, I can say, we can attest, we all feel safe.
Absolutely.
And some of us have compromised immune systems, so that's important for me and Murray, both of us who have it, right? So,
all right.
That's great to hear.
So, Steve, considering the unique situation this year, are the in-theater and online viewings where you thought they'd be for the festival? Like in number, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah, we're ahead. And as we mentioned about the release that I think we were talking about this before.
That was offline, my friend.
Yeah. So let me share. For those of you listening at home, obviously we banter and talk before the podcast recording starts. So we sent out a press. We were talking earlier about a press release that we sent out today, just to update folks that so far at the midway point of the festival, we're ahead of our attendance projections for this year so far. So right now, we're estimating that we've got an audience booked in either for streaming or in cinema of about 22,000. And that is an estimate because right now, until we do some more research with the audience, we won't know how many people are watching each stream. Right? Obviously, if you're streaming a movie at home, you might be alone, or you might be with 3 other people. So we'll be right now kind of we're estimating that maybe it's something between 1.5 and 2 people watching each stream, based on what other festivals have told us their experience was. So, taking the number of streams that have been, we've got about 15,000 in cinema tickets and streams that have been bought so far. So just add a little multiplier on that for multiple people at home watching, and that's how we're estimating 22,000. And we're only halfway. We're only halfway through, so we'll see where we get to.
Yeah. Well, we have something we want to say about that. We have something we want to say about. Here we go. Congrats.
Thanks. Thank you so much. It's really, I'm really delighted that and honestly, I didn't even dare hope as recently as a couple months ago that things would be going, touch wood, as well as they've been going here at the midpoint of the festival, and just to see the audience embracing, the hybrid model we're using this year is great. And I'm sure you guys have also mentioned that the movies are available. The online, we're geo-restricted not only to Calgary, but to the whole Prairie province region, right? So Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba are all online this year. And we're actually getting some uptake from people outside of Alberta, which is really cool.
That was actually one of the questions we had too, just in regards specifically to that. Because there's nothing to the size, I would imagine, that CIFF provides to Calgary that they would get in Saskatchewan or Manitoba. I'd imagine the festivals there. I'm sure they have there are some great festivals in the prairies. I'm really impressed, for example, with the Gimli Film Festival in Manitoba. Yep.
And maybe that's on your guys' radar. The festival director there is a smart cookie, and in fact, we learned a lot from his experience doing Gimli online earlier in the year. But there are good festivals. There aren't any festivals that are of CIFF size and scope in Manitoba or Saskatchewan, and also certainly not in the fall, not in this fall window, and that's the most important thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and we worked really proactively in putting together. I don't want to say a coalition. That sounds too fancy, but we basically put a series of regular Zoom calls together with the senior teams at the other major Canadian fall film festivals to coordinate our activities and make sure we weren't stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah, that's great.
And that kind of a thing. And we were particularly vigilant, I think, to make sure that we weren't, going to hurt any other smaller festivals. We are wide through, streaming wide through Alberta. And of course, in Edmonton, there's the Edmonton International Film Festival's up there. And I know that's a popular event. The crossover in programming is not too big. So, it's for I think, and they've taken a different interesting approach this year too. So, but I think that it's, all the festivals have been really careful not to cross the streams.
Yeah, we know what that's like. It's like going to the urinal. Don't want to cross the streams, buddy. So
it was a Ghostbusters reference.
That's sorry.
You should know Jim's going to take it somewhere else.
I was thinking Ghostbusters. Jim went a different direction.
There's a movie called Ghostbusters? What's that? So actually, that's a really good segue, because we've been talking a lot about CIFF, but I think some of our listeners maybe want a little bit know a little bit more about Steve. So, what's your favorite genre? What if Steve's going to go see a film? What's your favorite genre? And have you been able to watch that specific genre at CIFF this year? And if so, talk about maybe that film that you really liked.
Sure. Oh, totally. I love that question. Well, first of all, I'm an omnivore, but of course I have my preferences like everybody. I love anything under the speculative umbrella, right?
Okay.
So, and that's my taste too in other forms of art, but and also if there's just a little bit of I don't want to say I like it. I'm fine for people to go a little over the top or a little weird, or just a little bit bonkers.
Yeah.
But,
Preaching to the choir, Lister.
Exactly. I love but at the same time, so it takes, for example, within that horror, right, which is too broad of a genre just to put under one word, horror. But there's almost nothing more satisfying to me than to discovering a great new horror film.
Yes.
But so in a sense, I'd say that's my favorite genre. I would also say that the true success rate within that genre is, the ratio is very lopsided. So I almost never say that horror is one of my favorite genres, because then, most of the horror movies that I see are actually, I don't find them that good. And when you hit, that makes it just like the fix you get when you discover one that is truly original or truly scary, is, and obviously that's personal too, but makes it all the more special, right?
So did you see something yet already that you kind of went, well, I'm sure glad we got that film?
Well, to talk CIFF, in that regard, Possessor, I really, really think Possessor is an outstandingly good film by Brandon Cronenberg. It's genuinely the craftsmanship of the film is very high. It's extremely well shot. The locations are gorgeous. The performances are very polished. Even Sean Bean, who's in the movie for a few brief scenes, brings just such a great center of gravity to that movie.
Oh, totally.
All the performances are great. It's genuinely a surprising film, even though the subject matter that it covers has been, you've seen most of that in other movies in terms of general topics and general ideas. But somehow the way that Brandon's put it together in this feels really fresh to me, and I wouldn't recommend it to anybody who has the slightest sensitivity to blood. Don't see it if you do not want to see blood.
So Steve, would you say it was Mondo?
It was. Oh, you shouldn't have had to prompt me, because Possessor is Mondo.
All right.
Damn right it's Mondo.
Damn right it's Mondo. Yeah, we saw that one too.
We loved it.
We loved every ounce of blood of it. It was so good. Was there anything else?
For the literary nerds, and actually I wouldn't only pigeonhole the movie to them, but and I, by the way, it's not us and them because I'm a literary nerd. But My Salinger Year is a really great picture.
Oh, okay.
We'll be seeing it later in the week.
Sigourney Weaver, you're going to see it later this week. Yeah, I really. It's a delightful movie, and speak also has some of my favorite performances at the festival so far this year. I really love Sigourney Weaver as J.D. Salinger's agent.
Nice.
That's sweet. So we noticed there's a few different sponsors this year too. Now, I know in the past I've partaken with a brewski with Steve in the past. So seeing that you guys got Banded Peak and Blind Man Brewing that are sponsors.
Yeah, hats off to them. And I've been a fan of both Banded Peak and Blind Man's beer well before they were affiliated with CIFF for sponsorship. So just hats off to those guys. Banded Peak's had a really big year, by the way. I think they were purchased, but they're able to maintain 100% of the way they make beer and who's making their beer, and it's just given them a wider distribution. But the beer's the same. Anyways, really happy to have them. One of the things that represents to me, and I hope we can go further down this path in future years, is, I think I love it when events and venues have where they celebrate diversity of offerings. And so instead of having one beer sponsor for the whole festival, I love that people in that craft beer spirit, people like the folks at Blind Man and Banded Peak are happy to collaborate and work together. And I hope one day that we can have, a craft beer market or like a craft beer consortium associated with the festival. We can do all kinds of fun things that way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you know what? I got to say, it kind of pairs really well, right? You have some really good local breweries
Totally.
with an amazing local film fest. So, I mean, we know your time is super valuable, and you've given us a lot of it. So we really want to thank you for that. So
thank you for having me.
Yeah, no. So we do have one final question. We just want to make sure that, as well as we'll do some plugs in a little bit. But so if there's one thing that you want, because we're now midway through the festival, and if you want to leave everybody with sort of one thing to take away that you want to leave with them, what do you think that would be?
Okay.
It's a bit of a loaded
the
question.
One thing I'd want to leave. So let me ask you a question about the question, though. You want, is it something you like that I want to leave them with in terms of this year's festival or life advice?
Oh, wow. We're getting all philosophical. We don't want to stretch this on for another 2 hours. I mean, we probably could, because we do like to gab. But I want maybe a little bit more selfishly for the listeners that say, okay, CIFF is got half of this left. So how can they get the most of CIFF? And then you can maybe put a spin on it to maybe change their life for the future too.
Okay, and I'll also say too, I'm not qualified to give out life advice. So good. I'm glad that we're steering it towards the festival.
You always give advice to me, buddy. I'm always happy with what you tell me.
So I could give film recommendations some more, but I actually think that it's so personal. I would just encourage people to go to CIFF Calgary, CIFFCalgary.ca, and explore a little bit. It's pretty easy to find. I hope our people find the website easy to narrow down what they might see. And it's so personal. That's why giving recommendations is hard. But what I would like to leave people with is that, there are a limited number of streams. We've seen, one of the things we've learned is that people expect that, a festival like CIFF will, that you can't sell out a movie online.
Yeah.
Because why would you, right? You're used to watching Netflix and there's no such thing to sell out. You can't sell out a Netflix show. But it's different for film festivals. The filmmakers and the other rights holders, like if there's a distributor involved, they cap the number of screenings that each film can have. And that's not unique to us. Even TIFF has, is operating under similar circumstances, right?
Yep.
So, so the way that works, so basically what I'm saying is if there's something you want to see, especially if you've heard it might be one of the more popular movies, don't wait. Reserve your stream, book your stream. Now you don't have to watch it right away. You have until the end of the festival to watch it. And as a matter of fact, if you've unlocked it and started watching it by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday night, October 4th, when festival ends, it gives you another 48 hours.
Oh, okay, cool. That's good to know.
Watching it. So yeah, so there's a little pro tip there. Yeah, if you get to the final day of the festival in October, then and it's like you still want to squeeze a few in, you actually technically can watch them through the Monday and Tuesday as well if you've already bought and unlocked them.
Overtime at CIFF.
Yeah.
That exactly. It's Dr. Ryman overtime, Z.
Yeah, nice. Baby. So does that go for now? Obviously that's for the streaming, but in theater. So the in theater projects, is it something that, is that all, are they selling out? Is a room still at theater?
A lot of them are getting full. There are still a number of I don't have the exact number. I would say still more than half the screenings remaining.
Okay, good.
For the second half of the festival have room in them. But that said, it does not take much to get to a sellout in cinema in COVID times, right? With the mandatory physical distancing around your seats. That can take a 360 seat theater down to the most you're going to get in there is maybe between 50 and 70 people. So doesn't take you can see where I'm going with this. Yep. So again, I would say don't wait there.
Don't wait. Get your tickets.
You can get them now.
Yeah, but there's still lots to choose from for sure.
That's
right
good.
On.
Well, Steve, thanks for spending the time with us here at Film Rage. We are big fans of CIFF, and we look forward to the rest of the festival with you, and look forward to seeing you in person. So everybody that's listening, please check out CIFFCalgary.ca. Thanks, Ragers, for listening. Thanks to the extended Film Rage crew of Leonard Conlon for his artistic vision and Leonard Conlon photography. Then listen to us on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Bramble, Spotify. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Check out our website at filmrageyyc.com. We are always wanting your feedback to make this a raging blast for our listeners, so please comment often, and please, if you do anything, make us rage. That's it for this day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Rage on.
Rage on.